You are wrong about everything.
That's adorable.
All right. The board is clear. The board is clear.
Burned. Pam Bondi wrote that for you? But the beautiful thing is, the children that y'all have made and the people that's younger than y'all don't support none of this racism that y'all want. The Maga party is the last breath of the Confederacy. And I'll be happy to see millennials and Gen Z bury y'all. There will be no more of your party. The midterms gonna come, y'all gonna get wiped out. Trump gonna get dragged out of the White House, and I'm gonna love every second of it.
You are looking at the exact moment the political mask slips. When politicians sit up on a dais and try to map out congressional districts to preserve their own power, they rely on decorum to keep the public quiet. They expect citizens to come up, politely ask for fairness, and then take their seats while the gerrymandering machinery rolls on. What you're about to see is what happens when that illusion shatters. A local Louisiana resident named Sean Comish sat in front of a state redistricting committee and didn't just challenge a map. He dismantled the entire moral, foreign policy, and economic record of the modern Republican Party right to their faces. From red state infant mortality rates to economic recessions, Sean brought receipts that left the committee so rattled that a state lawmaker tried to throw a smug jab only to get instantly checkmated on a live microphone. If you believe in holding power accountable and exposing real systemic corruption, hit that subscribe button. I'm Neil. This is The Honest Perspective. Decorum won't save a bad policy, and stats don't care about gerrymandered lines. Let's get into it.
So I have no doubt in my mind that the map's gonna pass. If y'all can give us less than 0 seats, you would do it. Y'all do this under the orders of somebody that said the Civil Rights Act was harmful to white people, that it caused reverse racism. RFK said that black children are overfilled on antidepressants and that they need to be reparented on different forms, all of them. Pete Hegseth constantly brings Doug Wilson to the Pentagon to give a prayer service. Doug Wilson is the same pastor that said that slave owners were on strong spiritual ground. I don't have no belief in no morality on anybody that followed Donald Trump. If you wasn't with this map, you wouldn't be underneath this president. You wouldn't be in your party. You would stand up, you would stand against it, you would speak out about it. So as far as I'm concerned, if you here as one of these Trump Republicans, you already showed us who you are. You showed us what you want to do. And I believe the country as a whole is rebuking your party. Y'all are in a death spiral. That's why y'all have to redistrict. That's why y'all have to cheat. That's why Trump got to go to Texas and say he entitled to 5 more seats. It's because y'all know what y'all doing is abhorrent. We letting our people die in Iran based on false pretense that Tulsi Gabbard and Joe Kent say it ain't real. Y'all okay with all that. So I'm positive y'all gonna be okay with the maps.
Notice what Sean is doing here. He isn't just complaining about line drawing on a map. He immediately connects local gerrymandering to national policy choices and ideological hypocrisy. He calls out the theological and historical revisionism being laundered into national political circles, specifically naming Christian nationalist figures like Idaho pastor Doug Wilson, who literally co-authored literature defending antebellum slavery as biblical and humane. When citizens force state legislators to sit there and listen to the direct connections between their national figures and local policy outcomes, you realize why these committees hate open public comment.
But the beautiful thing is, the children that y'all have made and the people that's younger than y'all don't support none of this racism that y'all want. The Maga party is the last breath of the Confederacy. And I'll be happy to see millennials and Gen Z bury y'all. There will be no more of your party. The midterms gonna come, y'all gonna get wiped out. Trump gonna get dragged out of the White House, and I'm gonna love every second of it. Because y'all loved every second of the suffering that he caused to everybody in this country. And worldwide, we starve in Cuba. We bomb Nigeria. We hold in Zimbabwe and Zambia hostage for their minerals. We don't wanna give them aid support. The pro-lifers that say all life is special, y'all letting kids die of AIDS. What part of your Bible say that? Point out the scripture. I think everybody would love to see it. And we would love to see y'all in the midterms.
Sean finishes his opening broadside on foreign policy and healthcare outcomes, but watch how he seamlessly transitions next. Instead of stepping down after the chairman tries to call time, Sean introduces himself by name and pivots straight into hard, verifiable data, targeting the state's own governance record and tearing apart the myth that conservative policy delivers stability.
I'm Sean Camise, and I want to start this off by saying I'm glad I knew y'all was going to be the type of people y'all are. As much as I love my other folks for coming up here and giving these speeches about how they wish y'all had morals, we all know, and you all know you don't have, we pretty much knew where this was going to go. So just to address some of the things said by Jay Morris when he was up here, which I thought was pretty much hilarious. He said Mike Johnson is popular. Mike Johnson has negative 7% in polls. He said he wants to spread more of the conservative ideology. I think that's a uniquely bad idea that virtually everybody in America agrees on. The conservatism that y'all have spread through Louisiana has led to the highest rate of people leaving the state that y'all have been running. When you look at what's going on underneath the Donald Trump presidency, we have the highest amount of people that want to leave America. We have the least popular presidential campaign ever ran in the history of polling. If we have more conservatism, what comes with that? Less education, more dumb people. The worst education in our country comes from Republican states. More dead babies in the hospital. The worst infant mortality comes from red states. More mothers dying giving birth. The worst maternal mortality comes from red states. The most war, sending our people to die in places for no reason, comes from Republican presidents. The worst recessions, 10 out of the last 11 recessions have been started underneath people who think like you, who think like Jay Morris, who think like Donald Trump. And what makes it beautiful is we see it on display. Miguel's over here saying, oh yeah, y'all have an issue with racial gerrymandering. What the real problem is legislation. That's what we really need to take care of out of that. We got a bunch of people came up here saying, we don't like the way that y'all write maps. Miguel saying, no. All we get out of that is, don't solve the problem. Let's just do whatever we have to do to save ourselves from going back to court. This is pitiful. It's a reason why y'all movement is this unpopular, and it's a reason why y'all have to cheat to have any chance of winning. And what's beautiful is the midterm's gonna come around, and you still gonna get wiped out.
Vice Chairman. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much for mentioning me. Your hat says Trump was wrong about everything. It should say you are wrong about everything.
That's adorable.
All right. The board is clear. The board is clear.
Burn. Pam Bondi wrote that for you?
What we just witnessed in that room wasn't just a heated moment of public testimony. It was a microscopic view of a massive structural divide in American politics. When citizens show up to public hearings equipped with real-world comparative data, the entire rhetorical structure of state-level gerrymandering collapses. Let's unpack what Sean Camise did at that microphone from start to finish. He brought up a series of hard statistical claims regarding red state performance: higher infant mortality, worse maternal health outcomes, educational decline, and historical economic recessions. And if you run the numbers, the receipts back him up. According to data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC) and the National Center for Health Statistics, states in the Deep South, including Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, consistently rank at the very bottom of the country for infant and maternal mortality. Louisiana routinely records infant mortality rates significantly above the national average of around 5.6 deaths per 1,000 live births, often hovering near 7.5 to 8.0. On maternal mortality, the structural gaps are even more pronounced, with southern red states consistently showing the highest rates of pregnancy-related deaths driven by healthcare deserts, lack of Medicaid expansion, and underfunded public health infrastructure. When Sean pointed out that 10 out of the last 11 U.S. economic recessions started under Republican presidential administrations, that isn't a partisan talking point. It's an established historical fact tracked by the National Bureau of Economic Research (NBR) going back to the post-WWIE era. From Eisenhower to Nixon, Reagan, both Bushes and Trump, 10 of the 11 recessions since 1953 began during a Republican presidency. Furthermore, peer-reviewed economic studies, such as the famous study by Princeton economists Alan Blinder and Mark Watson, show that real GDP growth, job creation, and income growth have historically averaged higher under Democratic administrations than Republican ones over the last 8 decades. This brings us to why gerrymandering is so critical for political survival in these state houses. When state governance leads to documented outmigration, Louisiana has consistently lost population to domestic migration as young professionals and working-class families leave for better economic opportunities. A governing party faces a choice. They can either pivot their policies to serve the public interest, or they can redraw the maps so that they choose their voters, ensuring they never lose power regardless of their track record. When the vice chairman leaned into his microphone and tried to land a condescending jab about Sean's hat, saying, "Your hat says Trump was wrong about everything. It should say you are wrong about everything." He thought he was getting a quick, dunk-style win for the camera. He assumed Sean would take the hit and sit down. Instead, Sean fired back instantly with, "Pam Bondi wrote that for you," referencing the former Florida Attorney General and high-profile Trump ally known for scripted political loyalty. In 6 words, Sean turned a state legislator's smug deflection into an embarrassing display of puppet-like partisan posturing. And let's address the historical context Sean brought up regarding Doug Wilson earlier in his testimony. Wilson, a prominent Christian nationalist pastor based in Idaho, co-authored a booklet titled Southern Slavery, As It Was, which explicitly argued that antebellum slavery was a humane institution regulated by biblical principles, claiming that Christian slave owners were on sound spiritual footing. Pointing out that figures like Wilson are invited to high-level defense and political prayer gatherings isn't fear-mongering. It's tracking the direct pipeline between extreme neo-Confederate theology and mainstream political power. This is why the honest perspective exists. We don't look at political debates as mere theater or spicy moments. We look at the policy behind the words, the stats behind the claims, and the real human impact on the ground. The state officials in that room didn't have an answer for the infant mortality stats. They didn't have an answer for the economic data. They only had a bad joke, and it backfired completely. If you believe in holding politicians accountable, backing up arguments with verified facts, and refusing to let public officials hide behind gerrymandered districts, subscribe to The Honest Perspective. I'm Neil. Truth over access, people over profits. That's The Honest Perspective, and that's where I'll leave you.